Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of The Fix. Hey, today I've got three guests with me because today we're actually going to talk about something that's a little bit more personal. We're not going to talk as much about process today. We want to talk a little bit about people. And people are a really important part of the process. As I say regularly, we've got to be hearing from the people that work within 50 feet of where the work actually gets done. And many times when that happens, particularly on job sites and things, sometimes there's some challenges with that. Sometimes there's some challenges with people. So I want to introduce you first and foremost to Daniel and Renee Mercado. Thank you for being here. I've also got David Giannetto, who's a great friend of mine and client for a long time, and also works with Daniel and Renee. So I was like, let's just do this thing together. So first and foremost, Daniel, Renee, welcome.
Well, thank you for inviting us.
Tell us a little bit about what you do, because I've heard this directly from you, and I think it's a really compelling story. Tell me a little bit about how the company got started and what it is that you do. And you're particularly focused in the construction industry, right?
Yes. Where did it start? I mean, technically, I would just say it starts in my desire to serve men, women in construction, especially. From my perspective, my father worked in the mining industry in South America. So, when you have 7,000 workers in a mine, and people are working 24 hours, 7 days a week, things happen. People died in accidents and many things. So in those roles, they have somebody that cares for people the way I do it here, available and ready to serve the team members. So in a way that has been inspired by what I saw within the industry.
So you're really providing a resource on site to help people that are struggling with things that are happening. And that could be things that are happening at work, or more importantly, things that are happening in your personal life, right? Because let's just be honest, if things are happening in your personal life, where do you bring those things to? Well, you bring them to work. We all, I think as CEOs, wish that people might leave it in the car. But David, has that ever been the case where people don't bring their stuff to work with them? I think it's always
I say all the time that we spend more time awake at work around our coworkers than you do at home, right? So if you take, you got Saturday and Sunday, but if you say Monday through Friday awake, you're at work more than you're at home. So for sure, that's the thing.
Yeah. So how does that work? Renee, tell us a little bit about that from your experience too. So, are you always on site? Are you always on call? Like how does that all work together as an offering?
Well, we go about serving the companies in a few different aspects. So we do go into the companies for what we call rounds, and we do that every other week where we go into their main headquarters or main sites, and we just walk around, let people know that we're available. And always at the companies, they have, usually in the break rooms, they have the job site notices that have QR codes that give them our phone numbers. So they're welcome to meet with us there. They can give us calls after hours or on weekends. And then Daniel and Joel they're the ones that go to the job sites and meet with construction workers in the construction zones. We make sure that we are following all of the safety protocols or safety standards, and that we represent the company. So for like Felix, we wear the Felix helmet, we wear the Felix safety jacket, and the gear that they require, we make sure that our care partners require as well. But they can approach us on a job site, let us know what's going on, and then have us reach out to them, or they can reach out to us after their work day is complete, so that we can assist them with whether it be budgeting, marital issues, or just a wide range of things that they might reach out for assistance with.
So tell me a little bit about that, Daniel. Like, you and I have talked about some very specific cases where, you've been involved in a job site, your number's around, and people call you and they're not in good shape. I mean, they might be having something where their wife left them. They could have a death in the family. They might have gotten a bad diagnosis, or their children got a bad diagnosis. The value really that you all seem to provide is just being that sort of listening ear, and being connected to some resources as well, right? Tell me about that, Daniel.
We try to be an extension of the care from the leaders, senior leaders of the company.
Right.
So from us, we show up to the job sites, we show up to the office, like my wife explaining, in behalf of that caring culture from the owner and leaders. So when we go to these places, the job sites and all, the people, they understand that we are there to support, to care. We're not there to interrupt the job. So, when we show up and it's 117-degree weather, wearing their same gear, they're in there, they feel value. They know that their leaders value them, but the leaders are, not marital counselors. They're not, crisis counselors and all that. So when they partner with us and we show up in those settings, if we show up 3 times in a matter of, let's say 2 months to a job site, those guys respect it.
Yeah.
So when they're having those issues in their marriage or, situations with teenagers or whatever it is, they will be like, do you have a minute? And we talk for 2 or 3 minutes, 4 minutes within the job. And then we make an appointment, let's say 4 p.m. after work. And then we have that appointment either face-to-face, Zoom meeting, and we talk. We provide that extra feet to the care the companies, they partner with us. They already talk the value of caring.
Well, and David, I've seen how you guys have grown. I mean, you're triple what you were a couple of years ago, right? I mean, that is not. I think it's always been in the leadership team at Felix to really do care about your people, but that gets harder and harder the larger you get. So tell me a little bit about how you engage these folks in the first place, and how does that look from Felix's side?
Yeah, well, I think one of the good news about it is Daniel was introduced to me and to Felix by, to be quite frank, a competitor that Daniel was working with. And Daniel, tell me if I'm embellishing your story at all, but I believe the way it went is you said, hey, I'm looking to maybe expand the business a little bit and bring on some other folks that could have opportunity. I want to have a select client. Do you know of any other companies that would sort of fit, would be a good fit for us? Is that right, Daniel?
Yeah, to an extent, yes, but also Felix got my attention because their team in social media, they captivated me when I think there was a Spanish man that retired, and they went crazy in the retirement of this Spanish worker from the field. And I look at my wife and I said, that's the type of culture I want to serve. So then I went to my, what David calls the competitor, and I said, did you guys do business with them? He said, yeah, somehow we do. And the rest is history. So, David made time for us.
Yeah. So to your point, Derek, about our growth, we're 400 people now, and I think probably the time I met you, 3 times is probably about right. And we're super focused on our hiring being cultural related, meaning not just tactical. Can you pour the concrete? Can you pull the wire? But do you fit with us culturally? Because the business is all people. But there was a time when I started at Felix, we were like 20 people, right? So Don Felix, who hired me, knew everybody, knew their spouse's name, their kid's name. That's not possible in 2 states with 400 people, right? So I would say if when I lost my mother, I was working for Don Felix and he knew it, right? Like he knew when it happened. He had met my mother. He knew it. Like there was an opportunity for there to be that level of care all the way up the leadership chain. At 400 people, like it's just not possible, right? And from our standpoint, the best way I can describe it when I talk to other leaders about whether it be with Daniel or some other company that offers something similar is if you know in your heart of hearts that your only response to somebody that's dealing with aging parents or a kid that has a drug problem or financial problems is, well, we've got a 1-800 number on the back of your insurance card, then that little feeling in the back of your head that you're not doing enough is absolutely correct, and you should not ignore it.
Yeah, because what do they say? They'll get back to you in 8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah, I have no idea what they say, but I promise.
My kid's suicidal.
Yeah.
Thanks. I mean, 8 to 10 weeks, wonderful.
Sorry, you're on a recorded line. I'm sorry if the VoIP call has bad clarity. That's the last thing that people want to hear, particularly if they're not in a position to ask or aren't comfortable asking for help in the first place. If you're not doing everything you can to make that process easy, you're losing the opportunity, right? So as Daniel and Renee pointed out, the fact that they go out there, they see their face, they see them talking to other people, it builds up this level of trust that, hey, here's maybe somebody that I can reach out to. And while none of it is a guarantee, it's all moving things in a direction that I believe is important if you're going to care for 400 people that on average have a spouse and a couple of kids, so the math I run nowadays is we have 1,600 people in our care. What are we doing to take care of them that's above and beyond, contributing their 401k and making their paycheck? Because, what we do is dangerous, right? Daniel talked about mining, right, which is enormously dangerous. But, when we have a Welcome to Felix Day, the first Tuesday of every month. As a matter of fact, Daniel and Renee have attended some of them before. And my last slide talks about employee resource care as that being something that the company offers as a resource. And I say, hey, if this isn't your thing because you think this is work, that's fluffy people stuff, keep that to yourself. Then ask yourself whether or not you want to be in a ditch with a guy on a $500,000 excavator that's distracted because their kid's on drugs. If that's something that you consider to be an ideal condition as he moves that bucket around to take his scoop out in front of you, or, somebody driving a vehicle that's got our logo on the side that's distracted because their parents got dementia and they have no idea how to deal with it. Like you take 400 people. We have 20 people in crisis this morning.
Yeah.
This morning. Right. Like I know it. And what can we do? Thank goodness Daniel's company is there and came to our attention. Sorry, that was a long answer to your question.
No, but I think it's such a powerful answer. And I think having worked with you guys, the fact that you put Spanish speaking as a really important part of all of your events, all of those kind of things, recognizing that, you've got a culturally diverse team, having somebody like Daniel to be there on site that can speak in your native language. I mean, those things are really important. I don't think people really understand how that is. And just hanging around with you, Daniel, you're a very calming force, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, even when there's chaos, and I've been around you when we've had event chaos and we're trying to figure things out, and you're just sort of chill, right? You sort of keep everybody at that even keel, which I think is really important in those moments, right? Because guys like me, I'm a little bit over the top. I may overreact to things, but I think that's really helpful, right? To have people come to you and be able to confide in those things. Maybe, Daniel, could you tell us a little bit about some of those stories that you've talked about of people that, potentially could have lost their lives or really had, tragic things that were happening that were able to be diverted by just a simple interaction with somebody to talk to?
I'll share with you two stories or testimonials. Actually I have it on voice testimonials that I can share with you later on if you want.
Yeah.
But this one foreman guy in construction, not necessarily an employee of Felix Construction, but he been building this amazing project in a state away from home. When he arrives home, sheriff is serving him papers of separation, divorce, and stay away. So he called his safety director, which at that point they were not part of, my clients, but thanks to people like David and Felix, sometimes I have extra time to pick up the phone when those things happen, and I serve. So I serve this one man, and when he calls, because the safety director gave him my number, that particular group was trying to find a counselor, and they were giving him 12 weeks waiting to speak with someone about it. So somehow my name shows up, they call, and I say, okay, I'll figure it out. So in 7 minutes, I'm talking to the guy, and he's like, downloading every crisis, everything. And I said, Jimmy, you are a wonderful father. You are an amazing provider. You are just having this marital problem. I want you to understand that your family has never lacked anything because you're an amazing provider, but there's something going on at home with your communication with your spouse. I can't fix your situation with your marriage right now because I don't know, and I don't have, there's not enough time to go back in time to figure this out. I said, but if you allow me to serve you, so that took me into a 26 weeks relationship where the guy was calling me, texting me for 26 weeks.
Wow.
And within 17 weeks of the process, the wife calls and says, are you the counselor I've been talking to my husband? Well, by the end of the process, the whole family is completely restored. And it was because somebody listened to the man and gave him affirmation. He was an amazing provider, a good father. There was just something that he needed to work. So he allows what I call the voice of mentorship or the voice of wisdom. If you look at it this way, every worker in your organization will experience a difficult week a year at least. So if a company has 400 workers, like David said, that's 1,600 family members.
Yeah.
So if you have 400 workers and everybody in your organization has a very difficult week at least once a year, that's 400 crises. So safety director, foreman, managers, business owners, they're not marital counselor, crisis counselors. So, we've been able to impact construction industry to that level. Well, the other story that I want to share with you is a company about 2 hours away from Phoenix. They heard about our services maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Well, my phone rings about 7:30 in the morning on a Monday morning, and this person, HR director, operation director lady from our company, she calls and said, we are in a crisis, and I know you help people in construction. Can you help? I'm texting my wife and I said, what's going on this day? Do we have a lot of stuff going on? She's like, man, long story short, we arrived 2.5 hours later to serve a construction company that their foreman ended his life in the company truck.
Oh, wow.
So now we are in the crisis mode of helping people. But what I go after, I try to get to the owner and to the senior leaders before it happens.
Yeah.
And say, allow me or allow my team to be a channel of support, encouragement, listening, and then we go into those other areas where we help people. When you look at this difficult crisis, why people die by suicide, relationships, marriage relationships, grief. They will say money problem, but the reality is they don't budget. So they have a financial crisis where they're making a lot of more money than their parents or grandparents made.
They don't know what to do with it. Yeah, it's easy to manage money when you don't have any. Right? when you get a little bit, it can be daunting, right? I mean, when you can't pay any bills, it's like, man, no stress at all. There's nothing I can do about it. But you're right. I mean, that is a challenge, and we tend to probably not do the best. We tend to elevate our lifestyle maybe a little bit too much, and we get a little bit out of control. So it is really powerful to hear about that, and thank you guys for coming here. David, give me a little here in the last couple minutes. Why should companies do this?
As Daniel pointed out, his goal, and certainly what a good human for responding to somebody that's in that immediate need of crisis, despite the fact of there being not something he works with, but his goal is to be on the front end of that, such that would never happen in the first place, right? In my experience at Felix, in the time that I've been there, we've had 3 suicides, right? We've had 3 suicides of people that have worked at Felix, right? And just in the time that I've been there, and now granted, we've only reached 400 over the last couple of years. So like statistically speaking, by people count, this is a much smaller, this is a tough industry. Overworked, underpaid, certainly unappreciated. How many people walk up to a construction worker on a Saturday and say, tell me about what you do. I'm really interested in what you do. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, the reality is it doesn't happen, why should you do it? Well, if you're a leader of a company, you should do it because hopefully you care about your people, And if you want your people to be better, then and be more successful and all that sort of things, then this provides you an opportunity to do it above and beyond contributing to a 401k or giving them a raise or providing good equipment. But then again, if that's not your soul, that's not the way you're wired, and business is all about making money, then do it for the reasons that if there's no way that if somebody is not fully engaged at work, that they're producing at the level that they're capable of. And that could go two ways. We talked about the dangerous side of somebody being distracted, but just in terms of people's ability to give you their best, they can't do that when they're distracted, right? So first and foremost, you should do it because you should care about your people, and people need you to care about them. And if you're in a leadership position, then you're more than likely in a position to allocate resources to do that for your people, right? We're all going to contribute a pile of money to benefits in a company. You can decide how you allocate that money. And believe me, in the grand scheme of things, for the services that Daniel provides, it's cheap, in my opinion. And that will make you a better company, because if you're in Phoenix, then you're in warfare for people, right? There's not enough people to do what we need to get done. And the more that you take care of your people, and the more that your people know that you genuinely care about them and want to take care of them, the better off you're going to be in that battle.
Yeah, I love that. And listen, I think it's such an important thing that we don't think about the fact that, people spend a lot of time elsewhere and they bring that stuff with them. And if they bring that stuff with them and they make a mistake or an error, it delays the project. Somebody could get killed or injured. This is insurance in a lot of senses, right? And it's the best type. It's not, it's really making sure that your people can perform the way they need to perform, and that they felt like they're, cared for and listened to, and all of those kind of things. Listen, Daniel, Renee, this has been great. Tell me a little bit about how do people find out more. Resource Employee Care is really what the company's name is, right? How do they find you, and how do they find out more?
They can go to the website, recarizona.com. That definitely will give them more information. Feel free to reach out to us. They can reach Daniel at 623-271-2672 or myself at 623-271-2673. And then we'll just work with people to become part of their company. One thing I do appreciate is the longer that we're serving a company, people are no longer reaching out. Like, we've been with Felix for a year now. We do still get the crisis calls, but people are realizing that we assist with their budgeting, getting them in contact with the right people to start the process of home buying and stuff like that. So it's not always just oh my goodness, my life is out of control, but sometimes it's preparing for a baby or a wedding or something fun like that. So,
but you're right. It does distract you, at least knowing it's being handled, or you got an appointment with Daniel to go chat at the end of the day. That really does help. It really gives you that feeling of hope and understanding. And you're right. I mean, sometimes it's just people just need to talk, it's not about work. They just need to actually have a conversation and say, hey, I'm going through this. Is there any resources available to me? Or can you just hear me out and let me know, is this a right choice or a bad choice? I think
that's true.
Yeah.
We've been serving the Valley here personally, I've been serving for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And mainly construction groups. The last few years, like Felix, we've only been serving there for a year. So we're just available. As simple as caring for someone by going to visit someone in a hospital. It sends a message, and it has happened to us many times where a grandson knows that we went to visit an employee due to, heart problem, kidney problem, whatever it is. And then a relative says, I want to work for a company that provides this. So we can actually help employees retain employees. David can probably mention some of that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, like David said, particularly here in Phoenix, it isn't easy to find anybody to come and work on a job site. If you can provide them with benefits that make it easier for them, it's just gold.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for being here. Yeah, go ahead. Feel free, David. Yeah.
No, that was just it. It's always funny every time Daniel or Renee say they've been with us a year. Most of the time when you say like, oh, it feels like forever, it's because it really feels longer than a year to me. It's amazing to me. If I had to guess, I'd say it feels like 3 years for some reason. But the name is so is such a good name because it's a resource, right? Like in leadership, you got a tool bag of various sort of things that you can respond to an issue. And I would say, without any concern of exaggeration, 3 or 4 times a month, I have daily huddles with my leadership team every day of the week. We have a 15-minute phone call, what's going on, just to keep everybody in sync. And I'd say 3 times a month, something comes up and goes like, okay, did somebody point out Daniel? Did they talk about Daniel? It's something that I pull from a lot. And most of the time it's like, yeah, we mentioned something to them. Now it's important to know if anybody's questioning that it's 100% confidential. So priest, lawyer, doctor, whatever you want to call it. And I do get reports from Renee once a month that says, hey, here are the statistics on how much activity there is, just so that we're writing a check to them, right? You want to know that it's being used. But I don't get into the specifics of who it is. It's completely confidential in terms of things that are going on. But man, it's nice to know that that's an actual resource as opposed to one of those things getting brought up and going like, shit. Tell me how they get the number on the back of their, like, what a horrible answer.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's like a pot boiling, right? It's going to boil over at some point. Every one of those situations have the potential to boil over, and none of it's going to be good, right? So why not have some ice cubes available? Daniel there to turn down the stove and throw a couple ice cubes into the pot and say, hold on, let's just take this down to a simmer and let's just work it out, because it is hard to find people, and it's hard to find people that are rested and not stressed out. We can find them, but they're stressed out. And this just seems to me like a no-brainer for anybody that's in those kind of industries. Hey, thank you all so much for being here. Go ahead, please, Daniel.
I was just going to say the last thing is, construction people, especially, construction leaders, in my heart, I view people like David, they are in their calling. Their calling is to create amazing jobs with amazing cultures. But when you bring 100 people, 200 people, 300 people, people are going to have crises. In companies, they have to have that understanding. We have to have somebody in our organization that is not just a 1-800 number far away. So I try to serve their calling, which is to create amazing jobs. And we try to come alongside in partnership in creating that layer of support that is a real face. It's not just a imaginary number far away.
I love that. Yeah, you're not hitting some call center in India. This is somebody that is there to help. Thank you all so much, and thank you all for being a part of this episode.